Welcome to DME TV. This is our program DME Dialogue, wherein we invite distinguished people to talk on different subjects, and we also try to know more about their personality, the contribution that they would have made to the society. And in this series today we have a very eminent person with us, Professor Ujjwal Choudhury, who has been into journalism, into media academics, into research, and he has been basically an institution builder who have immensely contributed throughout the country, building institutions and contributing significantly to journalism and media education. Thank you, Professor Choudhury, to be with us on this occasion and sparing time to talk to us.
Thank you for considering me good enough to have this dialogue.
No, really, you have made an immense contribution to media. So, to begin with, we would like to know as to how have been your journey and what were those basically factors which led you to doing something in media that way.
I am a serviceman's son.
Yeah.
I am proud to be the son of a doctor in the army.
Right.
Unfortunately, my father passed away last year, but all his life, for 36 years, he has been working in the Indian Army as a doctor.
Right.
And I was brought up in China's border. My school was under Chinese occupation in the Sino-Indian War of 1962.
Oh.
But I was born after that.
Okay.
So the school has been the Ramakrishna Mission, very well known, and in fact that's considered to be one of the top schools of Northeast. At one point of time when the school education, the private school education, did not spread so much as happened in 80s and 90s. I'm talking of 60s and 70s. That was considered to be the best school in the Northeast.
You said that the school where you studied was in the Chinese occupation in the
Yes,
62
that particular
war.
school was.
So, how that was freed lately?
I mean,
by
the Indian
the
Army also went on to till that end.
Yeah.
Our school was under Chinese occupation for, I'm told, because obviously I was not born. I was born 2 years after the war.
Yeah.
So I was told that around 11 days the school was under Chinese occupation. And we did find in the jungles surrounding the school area, because it was on a hilltop, and 3 layers of land was there and the school was there. So there are certain jungles all around, and we found rifle butts and broken pieces and uniform pieces and many other things with the Chinese.
But then from 1962, or I mean, though it happened before your birth, from 1962 till date, there have been so many wars, and very recently the kind of trend that we are finding in the country, the importance which is attached to army, the army men, their service to the country. So, how do you look at and how do you look back and how do you relate these things?
The only point I would like to say is that army has been at the forefront of security of the country, and their sacrifices are supreme. There has not been political use of the army ever. Yes, army played a very important role in the 1971 Indo-Pak war, which led to the bifurcation of Pakistan and the birth of Bangladesh. And yes, in the elections, Indira Gandhi did claim her role in the with respect to the birth of Bangladesh,
which she really did.
Yeah, but that was a political way of looking at it. It was not putting the army in front. But in recent times, perhaps once in a while, the army has been named, used, and images, fatigues of army and images of army men at war have been used in election campaigns, which perhaps is not in the interest of the services. And real army men in the country never like to be politicized. Please understand, they want to be soldiers of the nation, not kisi ki sena, not kisi ki sena.
Exactly.
That's the point. They just want to be Bharat ki sena. Having told that, my childhood, I must also say that because I was born and brought up in Barakpur, Calcutta, but brought up in the hills. So my affinity or fascination for the Himalayas is very supreme, even today. Anytime, any scope I get to go to the Himalayas.
That is how perhaps once you are working in Kathmandu as well, Nepal as well.
I would be going to Nepal only a few days from now as well. My fascination, my attraction towards the Himalayas is strong. And I believe that Himalayas is such a huge treasure of knowledge from various angles, pharmacy and flora and fauna and human life and conservation and understanding nature and having equanimity with nature, balance in life, many things the Himalayas can teach a lot to civilization.
Yep.
It's a civilization by itself.
Yes, exactly.
So that background has helped me.
Yeah, but then how did you decide where to study, what all you studied?
Okay. So up to class 10 I was in Arunachal Pradesh. 11th and 12th I was lucky to be educated in one of the best schools of Bengal called Narendrapur Ramakrishna Mission. I was a rank holder in class 10, so I got admission easily in 11th and 12th because it's very tough to get admission in Narendrapur Ramakrishna Mission.
Okay.
My father wanted me to be a doctor because he was an army doctor.
Right.
I kept actually telling a lie to him, and 12th he got me admitted in the combination which is called physics, chemistry, biology. That combination for being a doctor, I kept lying to him, I must tell today. He is no more. Later on I apologized. Kept lying and changed my combination to economics, statistics, mathematics and political science. This combination I changed because in my heart of hearts I always wanted to be in something to deal with communication. It wasn't clear so much about media, about things like that. Something to do with communications was the broad idea that I had at that point of time. So in 12th I stood second highest in the English language and literature in Bengal, though my performance in mathematics was much below average. Overall it was good, so I got admission in Jadavpur University in first round in International Relations Department, which is considered to be one of the good departments in Jadavpur University. Even today, JU, according to the National Institution Ranking Framework, NIRF, is one of the top 3 universities of the country.
But then, I mean, recently, Jadavpur University has always been in the news. But recently, after this JNU episode happened, and then something happened in Jadavpur University. So, how do you look at, I mean, looking at that Jadavpur University, the kind of academic atmosphere that you would have witnessed there, and the political aspect of that? How do you
First
look
of all, I would consider that leadership training, including political debates and discussions, should be allowed in university campuses. Vishwavidyalaya or university is an epitome of education at the global level. So, if in a Vishwavidyalaya someone is not free enough to talk from Vietnam to let us say Koraput or Syria to Kalahandi, issues of humanity all around the world, if they cannot speak even in a university campus, if they have to be regimented in their thoughts there, then where? Where would be the freedom of expression? Having told that, I am against violence, I am against complete misuse by political parties of students' movements and bodies.
Right.
I am against students' bodies being affiliated to individual parties and blindly following their leadership. Those things I am strongly against. There has been student bodies that have evolved, necessarily not affiliated to political parties.
But nowadays we find all the students' bodies are affiliated either to BJP or Congress or CPM. Or
honestly, AVVP evolved much before BJP was born.
Yeah.
AISF evolved much before CPI was born. And Chhatra Parishad came, yes, after Congress was born, but not necessarily a Congress mass front. But unfortunately, things have deteriorated in recent times. Having told that, because you have brought up the question of the JNU and Jadavpur issue, if someone is asking for freedom from India, separation from India, I am against it. But if someone is asking for freedom from the vices of India, please understand the difference.
Yeah, exactly.
भूखमरी से आज़ादी सही है, कुस्वास्थ्य से आज़ादी सही, आज मुजफ्फरनगर में क्या हो रहा है
जी.
So if someone is अशिक्षा से आज़ादी सही है, लेकिन भारत से आज़ादी सही नहीं है.
But then, I mean, there's a lot of misinterpretation.
That's the point. People interpret according to their political and other needs. That's what I am objecting. However, I do also understand the students' politics should operate under certain broad decorum and certain broad norms.
If I can refer to one very recent thing, the UPA government has initiated a bill which has been passed by UP Assembly. Because there are a lot of universities, private universities in UP, but now they have brought an act which will govern all the private universities in the state. Now they have make it mandatory that every private university has to make it clear that they will not allow any anti-national activities
Define.
on that. Yeah.
Define anti-national activities.
Yeah. So
if a student is asking for a movement for Dalit expression or Dalit equality, it's not anti-national.
yeah.
If a student is asking for a movement or a seminar or a conference
Yeah.
which talks about the negative and positive whatever aspects of Brahminization and how it can be a more equal society, nothing wrong in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
If a student is asking whether and how can Jammu Kashmir be developed within the framework and boundary of India,
Yeah.
nothing wrong in that.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
asking questions to a government, asking questions to state is not anti-national.
But
The asking separation, secession from India is anti-national.
no, but then the kind of, I mean, intentions which are seen, whether it's a central government or the state government,
Agreed.
they are trying to regulate
Equate.
regulate the university
This whole culture of equating government with state with nation has been there for long.
Yeah.
And it is not only for India. It has happened in European countries also. Once upon a time, speaking against the Führer, that's Hitler, was considered to be speaking against fatherland Germany.
Exactly. Right.
At one point of time, you remember, I am sure, the Congress President Devkanta Barua had given that famous slogan,
India is
Indira is
Indira,
India and India is Indira. How can it be?
Yeah.
India is for centuries. Earlier and centuries ahead, Indira Gandhi is for less than 100 years of life because human life is below 100 years. And today the same culture is being tried to be put up as if the current ruler or current prime minister or the current government is equal to India.
So, do you want to say that we are going back to 40 or 50 years back?
I would not say that mindset is wrong. Please understand, nation is bigger than you and me.
Right.
Similarly bigger than the prime minister or president.
Right.
People would change, but the nation will remain. And therefore, equating any individual with the country is wrong. Then where is the difference between a completely dictatorial government as happens in North Korea or happens in many other countries?
Since you have been so long in education, now what will you say, since we are talking about the universities and the kind of education, the kind of freedom that you are pleading for, but then what will you say about the new education policy that the government is coming up, and whether there are certain good points that you see in that, or what kind of suggestions can you give to have an improvement in the overall education system in the country?
First of all, education must be not a service but a right.
Right.
Anyone born as a citizen in this country has the right to be educated. Health, education and work. These three must be right. And therefore, the government or the state it is essential for the state to ensure the rights of education, health and work to the individuals. Similarly, individual also has to keep himself or herself healthy, educated and during the working period of life employed or working, contributing productively to the economy. That is also a responsibility of the citizen as well. Having said that, unfortunately, universal access to education still is a mirage in the country.
Right.
It was a directive principle of state policy that everyone up to 16 years of age and up to class 10 education should be provided free and accessible education, equitable education. This was there, but still, though right to education has been brought in, but the actual implementation on ground
has not happened
to ensure 100% literacy in the country. Some states of India are literate 100%, like Kerala is, like one or two more. But 100% literacy across 130 crores of people hasn't yet happened.
So, what do you think how it is going to happen, because now is more than 70 years of our independence, and I am not saying this government or that government,
I understand.
every government says that it has a focus on education. This government has also brought new education policy.
I would expect, and using your word, plead the current government, 75th independence year of India should ensure 100% education of the country.
Right.
So, that is one part. We always look at the top end of the education, higher education, but let us begin from the bottom end.
Right.
So, the bottom end, because up to class 10 or ideally up to class 12, if it is compulsory and free, even in countries which are not known to be greatly secular or democratic, there has been compulsory education at the school level, whether it is China or Russia or Iran. I have visited Iran recently. In all these countries I have seen free and compulsory education up to a particular level. We call it HS, their levels are different.
But we understand that a country like India, which is so vast,
China is vaster than us. Russia is vaster than us.
Yeah.
China has a higher population. It's possible. Political will has to be there, and it's possible. And on this ground, this government, for example, has got a huge support from people because of its Swachhata and toilet mission. Similarly, let them make a Shiksha mission. Let them make a Swasthya mission.
But what do you think about the role of the private sector in education if the government is not able to handle the things?
Appreciate. Those who cannot afford must have the government access education accessible to them with the government. That doesn't mean government education doesn't mean no education. In fact, in Delhi state and a few other states like Kerala, for example, I appreciate the educational standards, even those which are controlled by the government.
Right.
Delhi state, I am told in class 10 and 12, the results are better in the public sector
schools,
than the private sector, and I am happy that almost around 26% of the budget,
even the infrastructure of the school has,
and 26% of the budget is being given for education, which is the highest in the country.
Yeah, that's highest in the country.
Having told that, people should have an option. If I can afford to have a higher cost or higher expensive education for my child, which brings in certain new values, as a democratic citizen, as a democratic nation, I must be given the option. This option may not be in China, and that's why it's not democratic.
Right.
But this option must be in India. That does not mean those who cannot afford will be out of education. That's the government's decision. And market forces can regulate higher education, nothing wrong in that. But even in higher education, the government has a role.
It has to be regulated.
Regulated.
Yeah.
And even in higher education, public education also is there. A role is there. So I am really sometimes aghast to see the public university standards. It's not decent to take names, but as you would know, being associated with education as well, there are several public universities in the country where infrastructure is hardly there, the teachers hardly take classes and all. Whereas the regulations by the government on private and public are same. But the private education, higher education, like private universities cannot afford to do that. Because if they do, the market forces will reject them. At this point of time, several engineering colleges are unable to fill up their seats.
Right.
Private engineering colleges, because the people, private sector, those who are affording or those
the quality of education, there is also a question mark,
and people will reject private education that does not deliver. But in case of public education, because it's almost free, those who go there cannot even reject, because they don't have the option to go to the private education because of their financial background. But those private institutions and universities who do not cater to the minimum standards, people can reject. And there are several universities which are being closed down. You know, there are several engineering colleges which have been closed down in the last few years, which is good.
Yeah. Professor Choudhury, you have been a multi-dimensional person and you have contributed in so many sectors. We discuss a lot about education, but then we would also like to know about your journalistic personality, because you have been working as a journalist, and even today we read all that you write in many national newspapers, big newspapers.
Today I write more like a columnist, not as a journalist, more like a subject matter interested person, that's all. Not even expert, just interested person.
No, you are an expert because we read so many things.
Yes, I am regularly reading a lot. As a journalist, I worked in Blitz, in Observer Group, and in Times of India and Zee News in Business India. These were the media organizations that I worked in. In fact, I would love to mention here Television International, which was BITV.
BITV, yeah.
So Television International was ahead of its times. It's a very up, modern television channel. That
but unfortunately
it wound up, and there were many other issues from the management side. But the content-wise, it was very good. I was the bureau chief of Gujarat first, and then bureau chief of Bengal. So I have a lot of good memories of making stories, both on television and in print, for these media organizations which we have just now mentioned. And if you consider, if you ask me which things come to my mind in the biggest way, one task was given by Zee News to cover 26 constituencies of Gujarat, plus Goa's 2 constituencies and Daman, Dadra and Diu 1 constituency. So around 30, I think 29 or 30 constituencies within a month. So we were running one day in each constituency. That's Lok Sabha constituency, not Vidhan Sabha. So within 30 days, and we were editing in the nights as well. It was Herculean work, but it was a great you know, teacher. That whole activity was a teacher for me. So I learned a lot with the team, obviously.
So the time that you did this kind of political journalism that you just now referred, and the kind of political journalism which is happening today, what kind of relationship
Difference.
you find?
Except the emergency period, there were journalism in India was highly diverse. So
Right.
there were straits which were very critical of the government. There were straits which were somewhat appreciative or you know, admirable to the government. But only during the emergency, it was a bad time, and we know how Indian Express came out with a blank editorial, and several other newspapers opposed emergency. Emergency was a dark period. Then Rajiv Gandhi brought defamation bill, which was also against the interest of the journalists. But one thing I must tell, the state power, whether it's represented by Indira or Rajiv, wanted the media to bend, but a large section of the media was strong.
Yeah.
But today, the state power officially doesn't want tell that, but the media on its own is bending.
Right.
The media on its own is crawling.
So how this change has happened? How do you look at this?
One factor could be that media was a mission. Journalism was a mission. It's no more a mission. It's a profession, and it's a profession to make money. So that could be a change that has happened over time. Second, even the people who are managing, I remember that time Indian Express and Times of India, you know, the big Goenkas and the giants at the time, still led a very humble life, and their whole purpose was to impact social life, political life, public life, and not just seek personal benefits. It's not the case with managements today. Today managements seek Rajya Sabha tickets.
Right.
They seek foreign tours. They seek penthouses. So the whole perception has changed, and it has percolated from management to the editors. First of all, the concept of editor is dying. It is the owner who becomes the managing editor, or sometimes the editor in chief.
So what according to you will be the outlook? I mean, what is going to happen in future if this is
Digital media will kill the traditional media. Digital media will ensure that newspapers die.
But there are
gradually.
problems there with the digital media as
Agreed,
well. Yeah.
because it has started its journey, but digital media will ensure that public commitment or public loyalty to legacy media will be on decline. It's already on decline.
Yeah.
It's already on decline.
Right, yeah.
Let me say, IndianExpress.com is more popular than Indian Express. NDTV.com is more popular than NDTV.
Yeah, there's a trend which is more or less happening in the West already.
CNN News 18,
yeah.
the online is far more followed than the CNN News 18 channels, though they exist in 18 languages, which is good.
Yeah,
but it's far more there.
Yeah.
So digital will come up in a strong manner, and in today's world of social media, user generated content, public generated content, you cannot suppress truth for long.
Right.
Yes, if the truth is not taken up by major media, for example, the Tehelka study of how different media can be purchased was negated and not covered by the mainstream media. So it did not get that huge impact, but a large section of the educated masses did know about it. You and I know about it.
Yeah.
So there were certain, like The Wire or whichever, there were certain media platforms which communicated that. So we must also note, even in language media, these digital media is coming up, alternative stories are coming up. It's not easy anymore. During Indira Gandhi's time, a journalist can be picked up from home, can be arrested, nothing much will be known. Prashant Kanodia is arrested, and there's a hue and cry through the digital media, through the social media. Within 24, I think 48 hours, he had to be left. Supreme Court had to intervene. So things have changed. It is not so easy now.
Professor Choudhury, you are a person who is known that you are always on the move. And you have worked in so many organizations and have really contributed. So what are your future plans? What you are going to do in media or media education, or education as such?
First of all, I need to myself educate about the digital and the convergent media. So as you said that I keep writing, from writing I moved on to Yes, that will continue obviously. The love with the printed word will remain for our generation. It cannot go. It has moved to an extent on the television channels. I appear in certain television channels, whoever call on certain issues. But the next thing that I would like to do is use social media more effectively. So vlogging, video blogging on issues of the day is something that I am looking at. I am very impressed with video blogs of NAS Daily that comes on global issues and across the world by through NAS Daily, and similar other vlogs. So many others are there. I mean, there are many youngsters coming up. Akash Banerjee, social issues, political issues and humor. He is blending. Dhruv Rathi doing his own style. But I would like to do in my own way a vlog. That's one part. Second, I have been for the last 11 years, 10 to 11 years, dean of 3 to 4 institutions in media, from Symbiosis, Amity, Whistling Goods and to Pearl Academy. I would like to now move to the next level in education. In the next level in education would be beyond dean is pro vice chancellor. So I have an offer from a certain university. I'm looking forward to joining them very soon, within a month, as the pro vice chancellor. That's on the career front. But I also would like to bring another perspective, that having been in media education for almost 20 years, I became the Symbiosis director, media director first time in 1999, 98, sorry. So it's already 21st year running. So in between I had been in certain World Health Organization, public relations and all, but still. So I would like to now move to the next level from being a media academic to an academic in general. So because there are certain aspects of media and communication which are applicable in general education as well. For example, design thinking, professional communication, use of social media. These are not specific to media. It can be even in engineering. It can be in any social science. It can be in management education. So I would like to also explore things what I have learnt and practiced in media education in the domain of education in general. So a pro vice chancellor's job would give me that opportunity as well. So these are on the
So Professor Chaudhary, our best wishes for your future endeavor, and we are really obliged that you talk to us and talk to on so many diverse issues. Thank you for coming and participating.
Thank you very much. Before I end, I would like to say, if young people are watching this program or watching this discussion, I would like to say that, we are moving away from entitlement economy.
Right.
मेरा पापा बड़े आदमी है तो मुझे automatically ये मिलेगा. This entitlement economy is moving out. We are moving out.
Moving away, yeah.
Feudal culture brought that. Initially we had that. Then we are moving away from degree-based positioning. That also is changing.
It's more learning-based now.
It's learning-based. Yeah. So degree-based, no, मेरे पास ये degree है. Even this education system, which rests on degree laurels, will also change. Will also change. It is not the amount of degrees that the academic has, but the amount of impact on the lives of the youngsters that will matter in times to come. Because government's role in education, at least in higher education, will reduce. And it's only the market forces, the people's response, demand and supply, that will determine the success. Therefore, youngsters should not live in that old school of thought. There is a possibility for everyone. If you look at the most successful people today in sports, in films, in sciences, in literature, they come from small towns. They come from small towns. So from Delhi and Bombay and Calcutta and Bangalore or Chennai, the success, when it was guaranteed success, if you come from the metro cities, is gone. There is someone from Moradabad coming and becoming a test cricketer.
It's an aspirational India.
Aspirational India, very well said, sir. Aspirational India, and possibilities are there. There are so many possibilities, formal and informal, by which one can come up. So therefore, I would only say, dream big and work towards the dream. Just dreaming is not enough. Working towards the dream is important. And it's possible for anyone and everyone to fulfill the dreams. Yes, there are certain structural limitations, I agree. Poverty is one, caste exploitation is another, there are. But those things also can be crossed. If a primary school teacher's daughter can be a NASA astronaut, it's a different thing that Kalpana Chawla is not alive today, but if she can be a NASA astronaut, anything can happen in this country.
Right. Thank you, Professor Chaudhary. So we are ending this discussion on a very positive note, that anything can happen today in India, and obviously we are moving ahead to making a new India. So that was Professor Ujjwal Choudhury, who was with us in this program and talked on so many issues. We are obliged to him. So viewers, you are watching this program DME Dialogue. Keep watching DME TV.